This week we will start seeing and studying how we can present information to users in a user-friendly way. How to format the page, how to control the styling and the formatting of the page. So to do so, the technology that is used is called CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. So I will introduce what this styling is all about and give you some examples, and then in the next lab, you will practice this. So this is the outline. These are the goals that we want to achieve by the end of this session. First is to understand what CSS is. Why do we call it cascading? What this cascading means. Then I'll start digging into the details of how to style a particular page. So first, the goal why CSS was invented is to achieve this goal of separating. We want to separate the content from the presentation or the formatting. We don't want the two to be mixed in one file or in one document. What's the reason for not mixing those? Why it is? Any other goal? Why we separate?
Easier to change.
Easier to change, very good. So ease of change, ease of maintenance. More importantly, there is another major, very important goal, to separate the content from the presentation or the formatting from the content. Is to be able to reuse those styles. So you define these styles externally, and then you can reuse them in many pages. And more importantly, also, is to have consistent look and feel. This is very critical for enterprise and organizations. So when you go to, let's say, Qatar University College of Engineering, all the pages of College Engineering, they are styled the same way. And you can see the kind of the brownish color dominating the styling. But if you go to business college, I think they use a blue style, and all the pages follow in that style. And the consistency is very important because it affects the image, the external image of the organization. In fact, at Qatar University, you cannot put a page in the official website without approval. And one of the criteria of getting some page approved is that its look and feel and the way it is presented and formatted is consistent with the rest of the pages at QU, as an example. So this is very important. And styles, these external styles allows us to do this. In fact, organizations pay some designers, they come along and they create some style in a file, and then these styles are given to content creators and developers, and they should use those styles. So all the pages have a consistent presentation, consistent look. And this is very important property that we should maintain. Okay, so what's the role of CSS? What do we use CSS for?
Styling.
Styling. What do we mean here by styling?
Ordering the content of the page.
Sorry?
Like changing the colors.
Yes, the formatting of the elements of the page. It could be the color, the font, the positions, whether we have borders or no borders, the spacing between the elements. All of this can be controlled using CSS. Okay. Now, why do we call it CSS? Cascading Style Sheet. You know cascade, what cascade means? This is a cascade. Yes? So cascading.
Because you can access the elements that way when it comes to CSS.
No, not really. What it means, anybody can try what this cascading means?
Separating each content from each other.
Like
No, not really.
levels, يعني.
Sorry?
Levels.
Levels, yes. What does that mean?
The first level is content, the second level is styling. Like that.
No. So basically we have content and we have styling. Yes? Now, if I take style and apply it to the body or to the body elements. Remember last time when we saw HTML? In HTML, we have elements. Some of these elements are containers. We can put other elements inside them as childs. For example, a table. In a table, what do we have? Child, which has the TR, the rows. And within the rows, what do we have? TD, which are the cells. Now, if I put a style, apply a style to the table, all the children will inherit that style. Now, if I put some style in the body of the page, all the elements will inherit those styles. So the style I put in the parents cascade to the child. So the style I put in the parents cascade to the child. But the child, if they wish, they could change and have their own style. I will explain this shortly. But before we go and try to explain this, let us try to understand a very important concept and very important concept that we will come across throughout this course, which is the DOM, the Document Object Model. The Document Object Model. So remember, HTML, when you write HTML, it's basically plain text. You write it as text, as you did in your lab. Now, when it comes to the browser, it comes, of course, as a text. So what is the first step the browser will do before it displays this HTML page? It basically it takes that text and converts it to a tree data structure. Because an HTML page is really a tree. What is the root of the tree? HTML. And then within the root you have two childs or two children. We have head and the body. Within the head you might have other children. Now here the body, I have an article, a side and a footer. An article has two sections. First section has a header one and a div, and a div has these elements. So basically it is a tree structure. So really an HTML page, programmatically or inside the browser, it is represented as a tree data structure. What do we call this tree? The DOM tree. It's a very important concept that we will be looking at throughout this course. And now, when in CSS, if I apply a style to article, if I say article, make all the text red, what will happen to the text of all these elements? All they will be red. Because the style applied to the parents is propagated or cascades to the children. And basically the children inherit the style of the parent. Yes? And this can be done very easily because you have a tree structure. If you apply style here, it propagates to all. Also, this DOM we will see later on when we start looking at JavaScript. In JavaScript, what really JavaScript allows me to do on the client side is to query this tree and come to any element and do some action on the element. I can come to this element and remove it from the tree, and it removes from the page. Or I can come and add another section here, and it will show up on the page. So JavaScript allows me to manipulate or to change and play with the tree, and also the style sheets or the CSS. This tree helps me to apply those styles and to help me to push those styles to the children. So this tree structure is very critical, and as we move forward, we will see how we will manipulate it. So just keep it in mind. We have this DOM tree to help us apply the styles. This is internally, of course, in the browser, but more importantly, in the JavaScript later on, as we move forward, we will use JavaScript to read and write to this tree. It is clear, this DOM tree is clear for now, and we will come to it, we'll come back to it later. Okay. So I already explained this concept of cascading. The style you apply to the parent get pushed or get propagated or cascades to the children. So let's take a small example before we move forward. Or maybe before we take the example, let me show you first of all how a style looks like. Or before I even explain this, let me show you something. Let me open Word and just type something in Word. Okay. Now, let's say I have something written in Word, and I want to make this text that I just wrote, I want to make it bold. What should I do? Thank you very much. What did I do? What should I do? Select. Before I can apply certain style, what should I do to the text? Select it first. Here it is. So I select it, and then I start changing the properties. I start changing the look and feel, the format of this text. I can make it bold. I can change the font to be, let's say, Times New Romans. I can change the size to be 28. I can change the color. I can change the background color. But any action I want to do, I should first select. So I select what I want to change, and then I apply the style to it. Now I'm changing the position. I want it to be centered. This is exactly what CSS is all about. So what CSS allows me to do, based on this description, based on this explanation I just told you, select elements of the page, and then change their properties. What type of properties I can change using CSS? Color, position, font, size, very good. Whether I have borders or no borders, padding. Like here, I can change the padding. I want to have some more space before, as an example. I can change this. All what you see here, you can do kind of formatting in Word. You can do in CSS. Exactly the same concept, exactly the same. Yes? Okay, so going back, this is the general syntax of a CSS styles. First, the styles are nothing but rules, set of rules. So how do I write these rules? First, I select some elements and then define what are the properties I want to change on those elements. For example, can somebody please tell me what this rule is saying to us? This is a rule.
Change the color of the body to black.
So basically, the element to which this rule will be applied is the body element. And basically, I create a couple of declarations here. I am changing the property color to be black and the property padding to be 1 EM. Okay? So basically, the general syntax is that first, I select the elements on which I want to apply the style. And I can have multiple elements separated by comma if I wish. Then I open the curly brace. Can you see it? I open here the curly braces, and I start declaring some rules, some formatting rules. I say make this particular. It's a name colon value separated by semicolon. Name colon value separated by semicolon. So, for example, this is another example. What this rule is saying to us, or what this rule is telling the browser. What it's asking the browser to do. Sorry?
First, second, third, and head. Change the color to green and font to font.
Very good. So in here, I'm telling the browser, whenever you see H1, H2, H3 in this page, what you should do to them? Change these two properties. The color, change it to green, and the font, change it to bold. So that's basically what CSS was all about. Two things. I select, and then change the properties of what I have selected. Exactly the same what I did in Word. If I have some text I wrote in Word, for me to change its style, what should I do first? Select it, and then go and start changing the style, the properties of this selection. So the first thing you need to learn when you learn CSS is you need to learn how to select elements, and then you need to learn what are the common properties that you can change. So two major skills you need to learn. How to select elements and what are the common. You will not learn all the properties, and you don't need to learn all the properties that you can change, but the most common ones. You need to have an idea about them. Okay, so how do I select? Yes, please.
When we have multiple different HTML,
Yes.
how we can access them? Give them an ID.
We will come to that. So that's what we will discuss right now. So first is another way to ask your question is to say, how do we select element to which we apply styles? Yes. So one way is to do what? Select elements by tag, by tag type. So in here you say all H1s on the page we will apply this style to them. All H2s and all H3 elements, this style will be applied to them. So this I already explained. So these are the basic selectors, 3 basic selectors, and there are others, of course. I will introduce them in a lightweight. But these are the selectors that you must understand and you must know. The first one is tag selectors. Using the elements, using the tags that we learned in HTML, you can use them to select the elements on which the style will be applied. So what this CSS rule is saying, yes, any paragraph on the page, the font family will be Verdana. So that's one way of selecting elements. Is this the only way I can select element to apply styles to? No, there are other ways. What is the next way? Is class. Okay, let me show you what this means in Word. So in Word, if you can see here, what are these?
These are styles.
These are predefined styles. Who defined those styles?
Microsoft.
The Word people, the people who created Word, Microsoft team. They created these styles, and what they did to these styles when they created them, they gave them names. This is a style called header 1, header 2. This is a style called title. And then what you can do, you can select something and apply this named style to them. Yeah? So if I select this and make it header 2, it takes the header 2 style. Yes? Now, you can also, if you wish, in advanced scenario, you can create your own style, if you wish, and give it a name, and you can apply it. So the idea is you can create a style, give that style a name, and then what you do with that name style, you can apply it to elements. So you create a style, and then you can apply it to elements. This is what CSS also allows us to do. What we call this type of selectors, we call them class selectors. So what I do here, I go and create a style and give it a name. I can name it whatever I wish. So in here, I'm creating a style. What's the name of this style? Red border. And then I define what it means by a red border. A red border, the border property will be 1 pixel. I mean, there is a line surrounding the element. And what is the thickness of that line? 1 pixel. Is it a dotted line or will it be solid line? In here we want solid. Is it black, blue, or red?
Red.
Red. So here I am defining a border with these three properties, 1 pixel, solid, and red. And this style, I called it red border. And according to the CSS people who designed CSS, the name of the style must start with a dot. Okay? This is one of those things already decided, we just stick to it. When you create a named style, you choose whatever name you wish, but it should be prefixed with a dot. First letter in the name should be dot. Yes? Now, yes, please.
What about the order of the attributes?
I order it up to you. You can do any order you wish. Same in Word. I have text here. I can start with color, make it red, then make it bold, then make it underline, then make it bigger, and then change the font. It doesn't matter which order, it's fine. Because the idea here, all these properties mentioned here will be changed. But at the end of the day, all of them will be applied to that particular element. So here, what this line is doing, this line, what it's doing,
Defining the class.
defining a style and giving it a name. What's the name of the style?
Red border.
Red border. Now, what this line is doing?
Sign.
Applying this style to this particular paragraph. So how do I apply a style to an element?
Class.
By using the class property. So it's very simple. So how do I create a class selector, or how do I create a named style? First of all, I go ahead and create a named style. It must be preceded by a dot. And then I define what are the changes, the property changes that I want in that style. And then I have at my hand a named style, a name. Then I go to the element to which I want to apply the style, and then assign an attribute called class equals the name of the style that I defined earlier. Is clear? Yes. I define the style and then I apply it. I define the style, give it a name, and then I go and selectively apply that style to any element I wish. Okay. The last way of selecting elements is I go to an element, give it a name, give it an ID. By the way, any element on HTML, I can go and give it an ID attribute. Now, what I'll do, I can select a particular element by its ID and then change its style. So what this line is doing, anybody can explain this? Sorry? So I am selecting an element with an ID error message and then changing its color to red. Is clear? This is very fundamental. This is fundamental CSS. 3 ways I can select elements on the page. What are these 3 ways? By tag, which means I'm telling the browser, whenever you see this particular tag, apply this style. Second way is by class. What I mean by class? I create a style and give it a name, and then I can go to any element and apply that style. How do I apply a style to a particular element? No, this is defining the class. If I want to apply it, all I do, I go to the element, add the class attribute equals the name of the style. The third way of selecting elements, I go to the element, give it an ID in HTML, and then on the style in the CSS, I go to the element, grab it by ID, and apply the style to it. How do I refer to the name of particular element? It must be preceded by a hash. The name must be preceded by a dot, and the ID must be preceded by a hash. This is the CSS designers, this is their choice. We just, as a users, we just use what they have decided. So now we are ready to see some examples. All right. So here are some CSS basic. Okay. Before I can see some examples, let me cover one more concept and then we can come back and see the examples. Okay. No problem. Sorry, let me just go to the example. No problem. No, sorry. I will not go to the example until, sorry, I will not go to the full example until we cover a little bit more. So, but here, luckily, we have already here some examples. Let's go through them. So this is an example of tag selectors, an example of tag selector. So what this CSS rule is saying, yes, any H1, the font will be Veranda. If there is no, sorry, if there is no Verdana font in the system, go to second, fall back to the second font, which is sans serif. Okay. Yes, please.
There is no
You know, here, different like the system could have this font, it might not have this font. Especially if it is some font that is very fancy font, not all systems have it. So it's better to have multiple fonts, just in case this one is not available in the system. So the browser will use the second one.
In some cases, we had a home model where this kind of problem actually existed. The teacher gave us a specific font.
Yeah.
He didn't actually tell us the name of it. We were supposed to try and get it as close as possible. I, by random choice, managed to get it on the first try. But it was a font that does not exist on Windows. It's only a font that exists on Mac.
I see. Okay. So, you know, because the browser, the web, you cannot make any assumptions about the system. So most of the fonts are available, but just in case. Okay. And here, what are we doing here? We're creating a named style called the red border, defining what this red border means. In here, I am applying a style to a particular element, and then the ID of the element is error message. Now in here, what I'm doing here. I'm doing three things. Three things. I'm telling the browser whenever you see H1, make it bold. I am also creating a named style called link. And also I am going to a particular element with the ID top link and making it bold. Okay? So these are the selectors separated by comma, and this is the style definition. Now, if I want to put a comment inside my styles, this is how comments are done in CSS, using /star and then put the comment and close the //.
Last one again. Dot link is the name of it?
Dot link, this is basically here I'm doing three birds with one stone. So applying this style to all H1s. At the same time, I'm also creating a style called link, a named style called link. And this is the definition of that style. I'm also going, to be honest, this is not a very good example. Nobody will do this in real life. But anyway, I'm also going to a particular element, grabbing it, and applying this style to it. Yep. Yes, please.
Do we have to use all three of these to make our page?
No.
Can we choose one?
No. Like basically, in any of these three, what I mean, this style could be applied in any of these three scenarios. It can be applied to all H1s. It can be applied by using a class equal link, or it can be applied to elements that have an ID top link. So this style applies in three scenarios. We separate these scenarios by comma. That's what this example is trying to tell us. Okay. One more concept, how do we link HTML with CSS? Yes? How do we link both? We have the HTML page or document, and we have the CSS. How do we link both?
On top of the header, you go ahead and create a link with the referral to the CSS file.
That's one way. So we call this external referencing or external linking. So what I do, this is the best way. The best way is to put your styles in a separate file. Typically, the file is with the you save it with the extension .css, and you define all your styles there. Then you go to the page, and in the head of the page, you add a link tag, and you say this link tag is referring to a style sheet, and this is the name of the file where the styles are stored. And I will show you an example shortly. This is the best way of doing it. Why is this the best way of doing it?
Because that means you're completely separating the HTML from CSS.
First of all, you're completely separating it. Yes. Second, more importantly, yes, please.
You can have multiple style sheets. You can have multiple style
Yes, the HTML page can refer to multiple style sheets. And more importantly,
You can see all the styles at the beginning.
no, you're having the styles separate from your HTML. More importantly, you can reuse these styles.
Yeah.
So these styles, you can link them to multiple pages. If you have 100 pages on your website, you have one style sheet file, you can link this style sheet to all your pages. And what does that mean? Using the same style sheet in all the pages. What does that mean?
This will allow you to standardize.
Very good. Standardized, same look and feel, and the same style in all the websites. This is very important. I explained this already earlier. So the best way to link CSS and HTML, you put your styles in a separate file with the extension .css, and then you go to the HTML file and link the style sheet to the file, to the HTML file. And this is how you do so, how you link both. Another way of doing it
It's just plug it in.
is just, you don't put it in a separate file, you put it in the same file. In the head, you have one special tag called style, and then you put your styles in there. And the worst one is you go to the tag itself and you put the styles with the tag. This is called inline. So 3 ways to link HTML with CSS: inline, embedded, and external. And the best way is external. Yes, please.
In the first step, we are asking to not use any styles, not to use any CSS.
Yeah.
There are some tags that have been cancelled. They are all in HTML4. We cannot use them in HTML5. Whenever we use them, it's dashed.
Deprecated.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to use them.
So the only replacement is to use style or to use it, and it will work, but it will be deprecated.
No. As I explained in the HTML session, you never use those tags anymore. Like, for example, bold, centered.
And we should use style.
You should use styles. Yes, that's
Even
what.
in the first lab, we're not allowed.
No, the first
No, first lab is different. The first lab, basically the goal of the first lab is to practice HTML. Okay? Even if the page looks very plain, the formatting is very plain, it's not a problem. In fact, the second lab, you will take your first lab and make it look much nicer.
So much will not be deducted.
No.
To use the tags that are deprecated.
You're not supposed to use them. You keep it simple. Either use CSS or keep it plain, kind of plain.
use the style, don't use the CSS file. Go and do the syntax. No, I understand this. I talked to Abdullah. It's like, okay. There's only one thing that you need to do. Maybe font size.
Image center.
You don't need that. You center the tab that is before it.
Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's focus on this. The goal of Lab 1 is to learn and apply HTML. You will not be assessed on styling. Second lab is all about styling. Okay? So it's clear these 3 ways. I think now we are ready to go into the examples. Okay, so have a look here. These are bad examples that you should not use of inline style. inline style. Inline style means I go to the tag, there is an attribute called style, and I start changing the look and feel of this element. So this paragraph, what I'm doing to this paragraph, making the font 20 points. And what I'm doing to this paragraph, yes. Okay, so, and by the way, if I change two properties, is the property name colon value, semicolon, property name colon value. I can have I can change multiple properties in the same, of the same element.
I've never seen something like this.
Anyway, like you should be familiar with it, but don't use it. Okay, this is not styled, this is out of the box, the default behave. This is styled, and this is another style. Yes, this is using online, not recommended styling, just for you to be aware of it. Okay, this is the second best. You try also to avoid it, but it's not as bad as the first one. So in the embedded style, what I'm doing, I have this style element inside my head, the head of the page. And in the style elements, I'm defining my CSS rule. So the first rule says, in the body of the the body of the page, all the text will be deep pink. If you see this emphasize, this is called emphasize, emphasize tag, I want the color to be yellow, and the background color to be yellow, and the color to be dark red. Whenever we see H1, I want the font to be one of these. If I don't have this in my system, use Arial, and so on. Paragraphs, whenever we see paragraphs, the font size will be 18 points. And what I'm doing here?
Creating a class called blue.
Yes.
And giving it a color modification.
Basically creating a named style, and the name of this style will be blue. Okay? That's it. The only thing we need to know. Yes, please.
This kind of style, can you give it an ID and use it in different pages as well?
Not an ID, we give it a name. This style is good. No, you mean this one? Yeah, no. The style I define here? Yeah. No, this style is buried in this page, cannot be reused. That's one of the disadvantages of embedding styles. It's specific to this page, cannot be reused. If I want to reuse these styles, what should I do?
Take them outside.
Take them outside to a separate file and then link them to pages. Is that answers your question? Okay, so in here I'm creating a named style and then applying it. How do I apply a named style? I'll go to the element and use the class attribute equal the name of the style without the dot. When I define it with the dot. When I use it with dot. Of course, this is very important. Otherwise, the poor browser, how does it know whether I'm creating a class or whether if I don't put blue, what the browser will think? Sorry, if I don't put the dot, what the browser will think?
No, it's something completely different.
No, it will think it is a tag. Yes?
That does not exist.
Yes, but anyway, to tell the browser, oh, by the way, I'm not telling you to look for this tag. I'm creating a named style. How do I tell the browser I'm creating a named style? Put the dot in front of the name of the style. Yeah. So if I run this, you can see here the different styles. All right. So.
Can you go down a little bit?
Yes.
So the rest of the
this one, this EM, it is yellow. It has yellow background because of this. Yeah. Okay. Now external styles are the best. So what I'll do, usually I can go to a styles folder or CSS subfolder, and in there I put my styles. These are my styles. I put all my styles there. Can you see it? And then I go to my HTML file and then link the CSS to the HTML. By putting this link rel related to style sheet, and this is the reference. This is the href. Href means go to this subfolder styles, and you will find a file called CSS, style.css, and basically link this HTML file, link this CSS file to this HTML page.
It's like include.
Yes, like include. Yes.
What is style sheet?
This is basically a link. I'm telling the browser, I am adding or importing or linking what I'm linking, what type of file I'm linking. It's a style sheet. Okay. This is a standard. This tag, the way it works. I can link other things. Don't worry about them. But what we will see in this course, what I'm linking in this page, it is a style sheet file. So I'm just helping the browser, telling it, oh, by the way, this what I'm linking here to this page, it is a style sheet. So I'm just helping the browser, telling it extra information.
The browser will still run it.
Sorry?
If you don't write in relation.
Yeah.
The browser will try. As I told you, the browser is, because it tries to accommodate as many mistakes or as many shortcomings from developers as possible. But
it will work, but it's not recommended.
No, it doesn't look like it worked. Let me. Yeah, it won't work. So if I remove this, you can see here, if I removed and then go and refresh, styling is not there. So it is a must. So with link tag, you should put rel equals style sheets, which means what I'm linking, I'm telling the browser what I'm giving you, what I'm linking here, what I'm importing to this HTML, it is a style sheet, and I explicitly say so, and then put the relative path that the style sheet is available in this subfolder, and this is the name of the file. Yeah. Last thing, I'll let you go. I already explained this precedence. This precedence. If I apply something to the child, have a look here. Have a look. What this rule says?
A body has a color green. And
the whole body, the color of the text will be green. And here what it says? Span is a red. Okay. Have a look at it. So by default, everything should be green. But have a look when I run this. Not everything is green. So, yes, very good. So basically the specific style overrides the general style. So in this element, the body element, it says, what the body element says, the text should be green. But the immediate parent, so what is the parent of P? Div. The div says the style, the color should be deep pink. Which one wins?
Deep pink.
The properties or the style defined in the grandparent or in the immediate parent? In the immediate parent. So the closest parent wins. So basically, the style of the parent will take over the style of the grandparent. So what is the parent of P? Div. What is the parent of div? Body. So because in here, I am overriding this green to deep pink, this one will be a deep pink. Okay, here, span. Which color this span will be?
This one? Hold on, check. This should be
It should be red. Because it has its own specific style. It will not override the general style from the parent. What about this? What the color will be? Although it is span, it will be blue. Because the inline style overrides the embedded style. The inline style is the strongest. It overrides the embedded style.